Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. श्यावर रामचंद्र की राधावर कृष्णचंद्र की। जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम, जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम, जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम, जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम। बोलो राम 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 सीता राम, 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 बोलो राम 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 सीता राम। जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम, जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम, जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम, जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम। बोलो राम 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 राजा राम, 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 बोलो राम 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 राजा राम। जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम, 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 जय सिया राम। श्री सियावर रामचंद्र की, सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की।
Hari Om everyone. Sorry to keep you waiting. Usually the brahmacharins come in without my permission, Today I don't know why they did not. So I did not see the necessity because they usually jump in. Did not see the necessity for me to come back, but then they were not there because once they come in, I give them the permissions. I don't know what happened today. That's okay. We are in, and maybe a few more can join us. Okay. Good to see all of you. Is this whole week uh, a vacation for all of you? Acha. So whole week you will be like, ऐसे ही पड़े रहोगे. Good, good. Enjoy. You also need a break. We will begin with the prayers. Shiv and Siddharth, you will be the most questioned. And Hari and Divya, you will also be questioned. Parth, you will be the mute witness because you have not heard the chapter. You will not be able to answer the questions. So there are a lot of new people joining in, new meaning those who are not there in the last few sessions. Welcome and be the mute witness. Please turn your cameras on and we will begin now. ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Hari Om everyone. Are you ready for the questions? Okay. I see 2 thumbs up and 1 thumbs up. Let's start with Siddharth Garu.
ఏం సంశయం
Hari Om. Baunava.
బాగున్నాను, మీరు ఎలా ఉన్నారు?
Kushalam.
ఉత్తమ.
Ready for questions?
అహం సిద్ధం.
Ahamapi siddham. Susiddham. Okay. First off, sorry for not posting these questions earlier than usual. Yesterday night we posted it. So sorry about that, but I hope you had enough time to read through these questions and come prepared. So there are so many kinds of questions that can be asked. Okay. The question for you. When the mind realizes that the intellect is watching it, it becomes self conscious and ashamed, returns to its control of the intellect. How do I keep the intellect alert in witnessing the mind without passing even the slightest judgment on the mind and its wanderings? Because there's a lot of self-loathing, self-beating, feeling weird, feeling bad, feeling remorseful. All of that happens at this stage. How does one try to keep a check on that?
When I read this question, to me, it felt like there were two parts to it. One is how do you keep the intellect alert in the first place? And then once that, then it's to understand how to do it without passing judgment. And I guess what underlies both of that is back to abhyas. It's always practice of doing it and to slowly build up that. In regards to not passing judgment, I think it was in the chapter that there's a part that mentions how that it is like all of these practices, all of these upasanas are for the imperfect. There's no, for those who have already achieved whatever needs to be achieved by them, there's not much to be gained left after that. So all of these are meant for those who still have things to work on. And so it's not that I'm not ready for this or I cannot do this, but it is meant for people in that stage, that it is the way to improve. And I think it was Swamiji that had used this example before about how the parallel to like a hospital, right? You expect to find 6 people in a hospital. If you're well, then there's no point in going there to begin with, right? So it's to get to that level of understanding that it is meant for us who are at this stage. And so there's no need to be self-loathing. That is what it's meant for.
And how does one, the first part of it is to make the intellect alert. Are there any techniques? Do you use any techniques?
I think the first thing always goes to having good night's sleep the night before. If you're just sleeping through it, then there's no point in it working. But to have a good active lifestyle, to make sure like everything else, it's not just this 1 5-minute period or 10-minute period that you do the meditation, the dhyana, but everything holistically has to work together well. And to always to have that routine and having a routine, doing it at the same time, same place as much as possible, for the same amount of time, and maybe slowly building it up over time. So having a routine that the body can get used to, I think will helps for me.
Both body and mind.
And
in meditation and life, there is a beautiful passage that Gurudev states that for a healthy practice of meditation for half an hour, you need the preparation of every stage of waking and sleep, and during the waking, all kinds of things under control and in balance for 23.5 hours for that half an hour to be successful. Something of that order. Let's call in Harigaru and see what he has to offer.
Hariom Swamiji, Hariom everybody. And I love the way Siddharth split that into 2 questions. When I saw the quote, I didn't see it that way. So it's a really, really cool angle that he provided there. So going on that same wave then, how is this intellect tamed in the first place? How is it made alert in the first place? And then how are the judgmental thoughts not there when observing the mind? So as far as making the intellect alert and for not getting carried away with the thoughts, this is something Swamiji has said repeatedly in several different contexts. Observing the breathing is a surefire way to calm this inner instrument down. Now, it seems very tangible at the grossest level, but whenever my emotional state, if I want an indication of what that emotional state is, chances are my breathing pattern, pace, intensity will be a dead giveaway of what that is. Dead giveaway, but it's a giveaway of what that is. So if the breathing is rapid and terse and short, that's an agitated mind. If it's deep, if it's there are deep open spaces and it's very measured, then that is a calmer intellect. So focusing on calming that breathing down. And when the focus goes to that breath, then judging the thoughts that are coming around, that also gets quelled. So it seems like a two birds, one stone kind of situation here. It keeps the intellect alert as well as does not judge the thoughts that are coming.
There are several steps in keeping the intellect alert. First and foremost is that the body must be well under balance and control. So, yuktahara viharascha. Bhagavad Gita says, yukta cheshtasya karmasu. So, your ahara and vihara should be yukta, balanced. What does that mean? We have this habit that we eat mostly not because we are just hungry. We eat while we are hungry, but we eat also because it was lying there. It was just there. As though it was telling me to, personally speaking to me, saying, pick me, eat me now. There's a chip packet or a sweet packet or these festivals and these vacations, holidays, poor mothers, they want to have some snack ready, and since it is anyway there, we indulge in it. So that is not yukta ahara. Keep, whether it is you're doing what do you call that, 16-hour fasting and then eating, and there's a word for it. What is it called?
Intermittent fasting.
Whether it is intermittent fasting or whether you are having 5 small meals or 3 meals, whatever your system works with, keep consistent with it. Don't make it an indulgence. And as a brahmachari and swami, I have not been able to practice it that much, because when the families bring bhiksha, it's almost like a party host that I have to talk, I have to indulge, I have to inquire. That is the least that we can do for all the effort that they are putting in offering us the bhiksha. But a healthier habit is to maintain mauna. I have seen my father, I have seen my grandparents, while they eat food, there is absolute silence. Like in mauna, they eat. And while eating, there is absolutely no commentary on whether the food is good or bad. It is food, fill it, shut it, forget it. That should be the attitude towards the food, that sometimes there is, it is spicy, or sometimes it is burnt, or sometimes it is less salt, more salt. It doesn't matter, should not matter. So that is the attitude towards ahara. Vihara, especially in this day and age, there is this attitude or mindset that, oh, I need to have a break, I deserve a break. Life is a journey, like you're in a car and it is a marathon. There is no stopping, there is no pit stop. Show must go on. There is no taking break from the show. But this mindset is pretty prevalent, where, oh, I need to have a break. It is like an athlete who is in the center of the arena playing. He is pulled out, a substitute is sent in. While they are pulled out, they're just coming hot off the center stage. So they're not supposed to be relaxing and cool off. If you really check it out, they immediately layer up, just so that the body doesn't cool down, setting in the lactic acid to develop, and then your muscles start aching. They keep the body and the system warm, so that when they jump in, it is not a restart or a jump start, but it is continuing with that heat in the system. Similarly, in life, there should not be the attitude that, oh, I need a break. Give me a break. That is not how life works. It reminds me of an example wherein, and this is an attitudinal problem, okay? There was this heart specialist, cardiologist, whose car breaks down, calls his mechanic. He says, oh doc, anytime for you, just bring in. You don't need to be in an appointment. So the doctor drives it and explains what the problem is, something under the hood, under the bonnet. So he says, it will take me 45 minutes to fix it. You can either be here or you can take the loaner and bring it back in 45 minutes. He says, no, I'll stay here. So the mechanic had a conversation, like light conversation. He said, doc, if you look at it, you and I do the same kind of job. You also clean the pipes close to the heart, and I also clean the pipes close to the engine. But I get peanuts, whereas you get, a good paycheck at the end. This disparity is quite, huge. The doctor didn't say much. He nodded and said, yes, that's true, that's true. And the conversation continued on. After the whole thing was fixed, the doctor was given just check it out, said the mechanic. So as he turned the ignition on and checked, they said, I hear a sound. Do you hear it? I said, pop the hood, let me check. And he said, turn the engine off. He said, no, while the engine is running, can you run your fingers in there and check it out? He said, are you crazy? So the doc said, it is for that craziness that I am paid extra and you are not. That I had to keep the heart functioning while working on it and making sure that the patient goes off with the heart functioning still. It is not that I can turn the system off, then fix it and then turn it on. That doesn't happen. Similar to that is the life of an individual, specifically life of a seeker, more so for a seeker, where you cannot say that, turn off, turn on, and, this is that part of life, this is this part of spirituality, and they both are different. No, it doesn't work that way. In fact, the mind intellect equipment is so well focused and brought to a focal point that it should function seamlessly in the world outside. And when it comes back, it can withdraw from that with ease, just like you take off your clothes and wear your pajamas or wear your whatever is your comfort thing. It should be with that ease. So the mindset should be corrected and checked that there is no taking a break from life. I mean, it is your life. If not you, who else will live that life? Yes, there will be stress moments, which means you're still alive and kicking. So kick it hard. But this mindset has been very deeply rooted that, oh, I need a break. No, life doesn't work that way. Then comes, that is Yukta Ahara Vihara. Yukta Cheshtasya Karmasu. So within the field of action, the preparation should be in such a way that it leads me to this point where when I sit on the seat of meditation, I can switch it off like that with regards to the outside world. And that can happen only in one condition. If the preparatory mindset of the individual is with the attitude of karma yoga. That I have done every bit of my life, every experience from the state of selflessness, and I'm offering it and I'm doing it as a seva of that Bhagavan alone. If these two attitudes are maintained, then sitting on the seat of meditation, there is no extra effort of, I have to wind down. People have a problem to sleep. Why? They're so hooked on to something in their head that they cannot turn it off and go to sleep. There is a whole process, there is a whole step of, I have to listen to something soothing, I have to have a chamomile tea, and then I have to have something soothing to sleep. There should not be any light, there should not be any this, there should not be any distraction. And when you can sleep during satsang without those preparations, what the heck are you talking about all this preparation for winding off during night? I feel not insulted because you sleep during the satsang. It's because you don't do all those preparatory steps in the satsang. So yukta chestasya karmasu is to have that balance approach with this karma yoga attitude through and through every part of life. Then when you come to the meditation, first and foremost, take a shower. Clean yourself, clean the system. Many people, I have gone to universities where I said, did you take a shower? And that fellow smells himself. He said, I have put on a cologne. Yuck. Chi. Dushta. It's not only that he has not taken, he says it justifies saying I have put on a cologne. Thanks, but no thanks. Take a shower. Why? It is not only that it rinses off the external whatever dirt on the body. At a very subtle level, it cleanses off those different vibrations as well, which we may have carried through the day, through the different experiences. And those vibrations are also cleansed. Then sit on the seat of meditation, create an altar, have an altar wherever you are, light a lamp, light an agarbatti, so that when somebody else is cooking in the kitchen, it doesn't distract you or disturb you. And if possible, offer some flowers at the altar, decorate it beautifully, have that darshan of Bhagavan, and then seeking Bhagavan's blessings and Guru's blessings, you start. First, put yourself in a good position so that the body doesn't shake or move during the next 15, 20, 30 minutes of your meditation. Then one has to, in the initial stages, necessarily perform the observation of breath, sahaja pranayama, where inhalation and exhalation are balanced with the slowest possible inhalation and the slowest possible exhalation. What it does is, there is a rapid speed at which this mind is running. It slows the speed of the thoughts and increases the alertness of the mind. Then those random thoughts that are jumping in here and there are also reduced if one focuses upon the mantra that is given, and that when chanted, repeated in sync with breathing, the mind becomes extremely alert. Now with this mind alert and introverted, helps that intellect to reflect upon that which has to be meditated in a more focused way, undistracted way. So all these steps have to be remembered regularly and practiced regularly on a daily basis. And when I like what you brought in, Siddharth, as the example, reminding us of that example which we often quote, is when you come to we call it in India as Dhobi Ghat. The river side, there are certain designated places where it is used for washing clothes. Having come there, you don't need to hide your clothes. Take it out, soak it, and there are stones on which you smash it across and remove the dirt. And there you don't need to feel shy, because that is the very purpose of it. So when the mind gets distracted, don't indulge in trying to designate or quantify whether it was a good thought, bad thought, content analysis. All that nonsense is not required at that point. Any thought, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, horrifying, doesn't matter. Don't qualify it, don't label it. Observe it as a movement and disconnect with it. The moment you, the conscious principle, disconnects with the thought, give that a little time, because with the momentum that it moves, it takes about a certain time for it to subside. And then don't go on searching for it and start digging up for it. Let it die its natural death. Then use that intellect which is now alert, rather than feeling discomforted that again it has happened, again distraction happened, why does this happen to me, oh God, my mind is so bad. Everybody's mind is in the same condition, because it's an untrained mind. There's a difference between a trained system and an untrained system. Untrained goes, lifts the weight, every muscle that has to be speaking will speak. Whereas a trained one, it only increases their tenacity. So this is a trained mind versus an untrained mind. So train that mind to be in that groove. So I hope I have covered it all. Did I miss on any other step, Hari?
Wonderful, Swamiji.
No, whether wonderful or not is a second question. Did I miss any step?
I don't see any steps
Okay.
missed. No.
Okay. Thank you both. Now let me call in Shiv for the first time. Can you please remove your spotlights, Hari? Yours and where is Shiv?
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om. कैसे हो बेटा?
All well, Swamiji.
All well?
Yes.
ठीक है. Should I ask you a hard question or a difficult question or an easy question?
Easy.
Easy?
Yes.
So, in order to ask an easy question, first I have to know, do you do any japa or meditation or pranayama or any of such practices?
Yes, I do japa every day.
Very good. How long is the japa for? How much time does it take?
Not very long, maybe like 5 to 10 minutes. But like it's just one mala, but I go really slow with it. Like I
10 मिनट तो
coordinate
लगते ही होंगे. ठीक है.
like I coordinate the chanting with my breathing, and I try to take slow breaths. So
Okay. So let me ask you a question on japa. How about that?
okay. Yes.
Easy question, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, there are these mantras which are taken from the Vedantic or Puranic mantras for japa. Like Namah Shivaya is from the Rudri. Then Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Gam Ganapataya Namaha. These mantras are from the Puranas.
Yes.
So we are given either the Puranic mantras or the Vedic mantras. Why can't I just repeat any positive word, or for that matter any random word? Damadakaduchi. 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 Why can't I just repeat some random word? What's the difference?
I would say that there are like multiple layers which would come into this. Like firstly, I mean, like the word itself, I mean, chanting it would be one thing, and chanting it with meaning would have a lot more significance. So, but like in this particular case, I would say that like even if you don't know the exact meaning behind it, but I mean these particular words still have that vibration and that power. Like especially if you chant it the right way with the right intonation, it does certainly build those vibrations within you and even like around you if you are chanting loudly. And the second thing I would say is that uh, like when I mean these specific words would uh, convey like a certain meaning. Like so like for example, if you just take Om Namah Shivaya, so I mean you could take that one word like Shiva and I mean correlate it to so many different meanings of his name. So and like when you chant it with that meaning and that thought process in your mind, like it could result in a lot more like impactful in a much more impactful practice rather than like just chanting some random words, like even if it is just a positive word.
Okay.
And I mean even if you were to do that, like let's say for example, if you read like those typical books like Think and Grow Rich and also like there is one passage in that book. It's called uh, I have it. So, yeah, so there's like this self-confidence formula, which is there. So like it's like a set of things which you repeat to yourself, some affirmations which you repeat to yourself every day. So yeah, maybe you could, I mean, even if you do that, I would say the mantras are still much more powerful because I mean, there is I mean, it plays at a much more like subconscious level. I mean, you are trying to like connect to that higher state
Okay.
rather than just keeping it at a mind and intellect level.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let me add Brahmacharini Divya and let's see if she has anything to add to it.
Hey, can you hear me well? Okay, cool. So to begin with, when it comes to the idea of can I repeat any positive word? Yes, in the latest self-help trends that are out there, you do see this advice being given that I manifest a certain idea by repeating it over and over again. But it is not as comprehensive in its approach as the original form that we do see it in our Sanatana Dharma. However, given that, one thing I had encountered when in Divine Life Society, Swami Shivananji describes how whenever we encounter a dosha within our personality, like anger or jealousy, one of the techniques that is given is to repeat the good value that will replace this bad value. And part of the practice is to repeat the name of the value and contemplate on what it entails. So the manifest theory is the most diluted form we see in mainstream, but closer to home, we do see techniques of repeating a particular value so that the mind gets into the habit of invoking the idea behind those words. Now, the next layer would be specifically about choosing these Vedic or Puranic mantras in itself. The whole point of japa is chitta shuddhi, chitta ekagrata, which is the purification and concentration of the mind, which is what's necessary for the seat of meditation. And when we look within self-unfoldment, we see that particular step 3 in the summary of procedures. Contemplate on your symbol of the divine, fix your gaze on the chosen symbol of the Lord, and surrender to him in devotion. So we are moving into that emotional layer and intellectual layer to connect with that Bhagavan. So when it comes to who we're invoking, it has to come from the Puranas and the Vedas, which are the Pramana. Because the idea of Bhagavan, again, I use idea and quote unquote, I'll just use it in layman terms in this sentence. The idea of Bhagavan is very comprehensively indicated because it comes from the Vedas, which is a Pramana. We cannot just choose a name for Bhagavan from my own kalpana, because I am limited to my mind and intellect. The source is the Shastra Pramana, which is Apurushaya. So that's one significance as to why it has to come from the Puranas and the Vedas. Second meaning, a second layer would be that it comes from these Sanskritam-based words. These are not English words or any other words. And the basis of Sanskritam is very in tune to the science of vibration, and every root word of every other subsequent words in Sanskritam is highly connected to the sound that invokes the name and form. Sorry, the sound that invokes the form. So there's, I mean, I can't speak more than this about this because I'm not, I haven't done my complete research on this, but this is just my superficial understanding of how closely the root words invoke the very essence of something. So when we talk about how there is powerful vibrations from the mantras, yes, it is there. It is a science in our Shastras. So it is important to stick to the Sanskritam that's there. Lastly, when we think of Bhagwan in the form of that which is given in the Puranas, like Bhagwan Ganeshji, Bhagwan Sri Ramchandraji, there's an entire kata that goes with it and a fundamental understanding of who is Ishvara, which is very different from pulling the idea of God in any other context or our own imagination of who God is. It has to come from that Brahma Tattva in control of Maya, who expressed as the total mind that is all all understanding, omnipotent, and his expression in every form comes through this, and his acts, every single act has meaning and significance. All of this is invoked by specifically invoking that name. So this cannot be randomly invoked in whatever language that we want. So in summary, the source is from a amazing pramana. The context of who Ishvara is in reference to Brahman and that substratum, that entire, I guess I would call it philosophy, or I don't know, that's a really bad word to use, but you know what I mean. The entire concept that's being given in the Vedas is what's being invoked. On top of that, the devotion that is being asked of us comes from understanding that particular form of Bhagwan that we understand through the Puranas that are given. So the values, the cultivation of devotion has to be specifically through the Puranas itself. Then I'm able to tap into the nature of what that particular essence of that mantra is, so that the mind can be uplifted in the right direction. So I would say that this mainstream idea of manifesting a word is clearly a misappropriated technique from our Shastras, and we should be careful about falling into those traps and come back to the original roots of where that practice came from. And so we should choose mantras that are specifically from the Vedas and the Puranas. That's all I have, Swamiji.
Okay, fair enough. Let me pull in Hari. Do you have anything to add, Hari?
Just one thought comes to mind, Swamiji. One idea is that when a mantra diksha is given by a guru to a student, in that process that's given, oftentimes we see that before the mantra is chanted, there's a process where it's invoked as the body, personified that way through processes like the karanyasa, anganyasa, and so forth. And that directly correlates to each syllable of the mantra, oftentimes. And the sadhaka, upasaka is taking that on that way. Now, this would only be possible if the mantra is Vedic and comes from a Purana also, only that way. Or else any other random word would not have this parallel like that, and it's not possible. And that's a huge part of gaining the benefit from chanting that mantra and doing the japa and upasana of it. So that's one idea that came up with this question, Swamiji.
And with regards to why not some random word?
Words have great value to them, whether we attribute it to it or not. And our idea of any kind of a word that may give us a good feeling, of course, but the mantra has such a special significance to it. I think Swamiji can shed more light on this, but just the other day, Swamiji was telling someone, I was observing, that even when in cases of addiction and situations like that, they found that those who are exposed to enchanting mantras, that really changes the very genetic makeup of what their physiology is, thereby helping them through experiences even like that.
Yes, I was going to share that aspect as well. Now, the mantra, the very word, it means mananat trayate iti mantraha. That, see, that's the beauty of Sanskritam, if I can take a little tangent into that as well, is every particular syllable and the usage of a syllable and the word construction has a very deep significance, meaning ascertained to each single syllable. So the word mantra, it's not how the English dictionary describes as a formula or a mantra, the mantra for success. And no, I'm not talking about in that context. It is, mantra is that when contemplated upon releases oneself from all kinds of limitations. That's the very nature of that mantra. And when this mantra is, instead of this mantra, if it is a random word, we do not know or cannot ascertain if that has the same impact as a mantra. Most of these mantras are designed in such a way that it has something called Nikshipta Bija Mantra, Bijakshara. I would not like to translate it as the seed word, which is what many English translators randomly do. They call that Bijakshara as seed letter. No, it is not a seed letter, syllable, seed word. Bijakshara means that which has the immense potentiality to unleash great amount of strength, vigor, and direction into the individual system. So the mantra, therefore, cannot be a random word. And these mantras, when chanted, what they do, first off, the complete cycle of a mala is 108 mala, 108 beads of mala. So when you chant 108 times, there are in our nervous system total of 108 chakras, and of those, 7 are deemed as the most powerful centers of energy, which is on the spinal cord, Mooladhara to Sahasrara. So these 108 chakra points across the body, they have to be fine-tuned very regularly. The mantra does that cleansing process and realigns the entire system for a complete circulation of energy. Otherwise, our system, literally, we are walking, talking short circuits. Not from the Munnabai context, but literally our joint of chakras are disconnected. So we are short circuiting ourselves. So to reconnect the entire energy system, there is a seamless energy flow, which the random word may or may not be able to ascertain and do that benefit. Then the word is associated with a meaning, with a form, both meaning and form. Vagartha viva samkrittau vagartha pratipattaye jagatah pitarau vande Parvati Parameshwarau. Just like Parvati and Parameshwara are inseparable, similarly the word and its meaning are inseparable. And both of them point at a form. These forms are very well defined with dhyana shlokas, with stories, narrations, qualities in the Puranic or the Vedic literature. So when I'm repeating that word, I'm actually thinking of that ideal. As I think, so I become. Yad bhavam tad bhavati. So why think small? Think big. And the biggest is Bhagavan. So through the mantra, I am connecting myself to the highest, biggest ideal, thereby energizing my system to uplift it to the highest, nothing less than the highest. Then the last point is a kind of a small story where there was this young college graduate who wanted to understand the uselessness of these kinds of practices and wanted to bust the myth of it. So he went to a ashram to meet a sadhu or a sannyasi there and ask one-on-one, face-to-face. So this guy comes to a spot and there is this gardener working in the garden. So he asks, where can I find this Swamiji? So the gardener says, why don't you go in that particular direction? There is a small hut, a kutia. So you will find this Swamiji there. If he's not there, wait there, he'll come. So he goes there. And to his surprise, it is the same gardener who comes in there and says, yes, tell me what it is. I said, are you kidding? No, I am that Swami. I was just working in the garden. I'm not. That also is my role, but I am that Swami who you came to meet. And he starts off saying, all these practices are such useless, futile things. You spread all these myths and there is no meaning of this mantra, the chanting of it, there is no effect of it. This is all humbug. And he goes entire 9 yards. So this Mahatma Ji immediately, gets up, takes his Angavastra, slams it on the floor and said, shut up and get out. Suddenly with that reaction, this fellow is shaken up. He didn't expect that kind of a reaction and picks up his things and starts to run. So somebody in the ashram, he calls him and says, usko pakad ke le aao, bring that fellow back. He said, I just yelled at you, shut up and get out. Now the effect of those words were so energizing that your feet got the strength and you sprinted like Usain Bolt. If a mere word can have this effect, imagine those that are designed with power of the mantra, power of the Bijakshara, power of that Almighty who is invoked in that particular form. All those qualities attributed, all of that is fine-tuned with this particular mind which chants it. Just like you take a piece of iron and rub it in one particular direction on a magnet. The magnet doesn't lose anything, but that piece of iron filing gets the qualities of a magnet. It becomes magnetic. Similarly, by this mantra and the chanting of it, our mind acquires those magnetic qualities and we turn to become that magnetic personality. And it can be applied both in the outside world. That controlled, focused, energized mind can be applied both in the outside world as well as the inside world. Both places you benefit from it. So that would be a good comprehensive way to look at it. And the final thing which Hari Chaitanya touched upon is, I was talking to, we have a mission member here who works at UT Southwestern, a medical research scientist. He is into psychology, and his specific field of functioning is in understanding that a person getting addicted or getting into depression or getting into several modes of abnormalities of the mind, it all starts from the RNA DNA level at the genetic level. Is there a way to course correct at that level? Is the research that he has been doing for the last 20 years plus. What they found about 6-7 years ago, he found that when the RNA DNA is exposed to certain vibrations, sound vibrations, it changes and rebuilds itself, rejuvenates itself, rebuilds itself, breaking away from the old patterns of habitual errors. So they exposed the genetic material to several chants, Buddhist chants, the Torah chants. They found the maximum benefit. This was surprising. The maximum benefit of reconstruction or at a genetic code level was when the genetic material was exposed to the Gayatri mantra, and the maximum was when that Gayatri mantra was chanted with Omkara. That kind of regenerative system that it builds. So when our ancestors give us this, it is not just out of, our ancient ancestors have done enough research on it and gave the best. Our immediate ancestors, our immediate parents or grandparents, or they may not have been able to connect this logic back to the system, but at least they gave us the system. We as a, I don't know if I'm being very critical, but we as a generation have the arrogance to throw the baby along with the bathwaters because our ignorance cannot grasp it. Ignorance is no proof of evidence. It has to evolve to understand as to what was the actual design of it and how does it help. Then with that Shraddha, apply it diligently in our life and one would find the benefit of it and one would incessantly grow, consistently grow in the path of self-evolution, comprehensive approach towards life and benefit internally and externally. That's called mantra siddhi. So that also happens. So I think with that, I have hashed out that topic in all details. Oh, good.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Welcome. Thank you, Hari and Divya as well. Thank you, Shiv.
As well.
We have only 5 minutes. Perfect. Can I ask Tanvika to step in and chant Hanuman Chalisa in a very good raga that you are? Ready for the challenge?
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay, let me add. Array. Somebody is messing up. Go ahead, please.
Shri Guru Charana Saroj Raj Nij Mana Mukura Sudari Varanau Raghubara Bimala Jasu Jodayak Palachari बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरौ पवन कुमार पल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेस विकार जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीस तिहु लोक उजागर राम दूत अतुलित बलदामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार तुम सुमति के संगी कंचन वरण विराज सुवेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियरि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे लाय सजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुवीर हरषि उर लाए रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि सम भाई सहस बदन तुम रोयस गावे हस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद सारद सहित अहिसा रम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाते कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते तुम उपकार सुग्रीव ही कीन्हा राम मिलाय राजपत दीना तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना युग सहस्र जो जन पर भानु लील्यो ताहि मधुर फल जानु प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माई जल दिलांगी गए अचरज नाई तुर्कम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे तेते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिन पैसारे सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी शरणा तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना आपन तेज समारो आपे तीनों लोक हाकते कापे भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीरा संकट से हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम बचन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन पल पावे चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे अष्ट सिद्धि नवनिधि के दाता अस पर दीन जानकी माता राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे अंत काल रघुवरपुर जाए जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाए और देवता चित्तन धरे हनुमत से सर्व सुख करे संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा जो सुमिरे हनुबल मत बल वीरा जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करो गुरुदेव की नाई जो सठ बार पाठ कर कोई छूट ही बंदी महासुख होई जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा होय सिद्धि साखी गौरी सा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा की जय दास हृदय महडेरा की जय दास हृदय महडेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरन मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसहु सुरभूप। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय बोलो भाई सब संतन की जय।
Thank you, Tanvika. Let us conclude the session with Shanti Pat. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaः Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shant Shant Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Have a great time. Spend time with your family and friends. Be careful. Seems like the flu season is quite treacherously attacking. So be careful, but enjoy. Have a great time. See you in the next satsang with the next chapter, and hopefully to see more of